Hello everyone, welcome to Coaster Hour, and today I'll be reviewing the famous classic wooden roller coaster, Giant Dipper at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. This historical ride opened in 1924, which means that it is 96 years old as of 2020, and is also the oldest coaster I've ever ridden as of when I'm making this video. So with that said, is this coaster still great after being built nearly a century ago? Today I'll answer that question in my review of the Giant Dipper. Usually, I begin my reviews by going over the layout of the coaster I'm reviewing, but because Giant Dipper's layout is pretty much just hills and a few turnarounds, I'll instead be going over the different aspects of Giant Dipper, and I guess I'll start off with the airtime, and for me, I think Giant Dipper has some really great airtime moments, especially with its finale, and both the front and back rows are great places to experience the airtime. The lateral forces on the turnarounds are also quite strong and give this ride a nice bit of intensity, which is to be expected from a wooden coaster. Giant Dipper also has a great restraint with just a lap bar, so you will feel a lot more free while riding this coaster, which is always a big plus for me. Giant Dipper has also been maintained remarkably well, as the ride, while a little bumpy in a few spots, is shockingly smooth for a wooden coaster of its age, especially if you ride in the front row, which is my personal favorite seat. Near the back of the train, you'll get a bit of a rougher ride experience, but in exchange, you'll also get a more intense ride experience. The middle rows don't really have the benefits of the front or back rows, and because of that, they give off the weakest rides possible on Giant Dipper. The pre-lift section in the tunnel for Giant Dipper is also a nice and unique way to start the ride, but I won't get into it too much for those who haven't ridden this classic coaster yet. Also, the Giant Dipper gives a great view of the ocean and beach while you are going up the lift hill, and I feel that some people just kind of forget about how beautiful this view is, so I thought I should mention it. Getting outside of the ride experience itself, the Giant Dipper station gives a nice classic feel, and actually in the station there are many signs that show the ride's stats and facts, and I think this helps Giant Dipper's station stand out from many of the other rides I've ridden. I also like how there is a whistle before the ride begins, as this sound gives Giant Dipper more of that classic vibe and feel. Giant Dipper has a lot of sentimental value to me because I have been able to ride this coaster multiple times with my extended family and friends from school. Whenever I think of the Giant Dipper, I always remember the fun experiences I had with those I rode with and their reactions to the ride itself. I would say these experiences definitely make me at least a little biased toward this ride, as I have not really ridden many other coasters with either my extended family or friends from school, so that is why the Giant Dipper, it is very special to me. With all that said, for my final score, I'm going to give Giant Dipper a nice 8.25 out of 10. For being one of the world's 15 oldest coasters still operating, Giant Dipper still runs exceptionally well and feels like a true classic ride. There is also, as I mentioned earlier, some great airtime moments and laterals to be found on this coaster. This ride by itself makes the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk worth a visit, and as I mentioned the boardwalk, I'll give some brief reviews on some of the other rides you can find at the park. The first ride I'll review is Undertow, the Mauer spinning coaster, and going in, I was actually pretty excited to ride this coaster since it was one of the last major coasters in California I had pretty much left to ride, and I found this ride to be pretty underwhelming. I know this ride, it's meant to be more fun than intense, but to me it felt pretty lame and boring as the turns weren't really intense in the slightest, and the brake runs were annoying and just destroyed the pacing. I guess one positive I could find for this ride is that it won't get you motion sick, as the spinning is more like a gradual turn, and I think really anyone can enjoy this ride. It's not going to be too scary for anyone, so I would give this ride a 5 out of 10, a solid family coaster, and that's just pretty much about it. The next ride I'll be reviewing is Sea Serpent, and this is an E&F Myler family coaster. I rode it on my last visit in August, and I thought, it was a decent family coaster, and I actually found it more exciting, just a slight bit more exciting than Undertow, which I know will be an unpopular opinion, but it was actually running pretty well. It wasn't crawling at the end like you've seen in most videos. It was actually like making it through with a decent amount of speed. So I'd give this ride a 5 out of 10. It's better than I would have expected. The next ride I'll review is Fireball, and this ride, it is a KMG Fireball, which can be found at many different parks around the world, and I had never done any sort of pendulum style ride prior to this, so it was definitely a new experience for me. This ride, it was fun, pretty intense, and since I sat on an edge seat, the ride supports, they became nice near miss elements, so that was pretty awesome. If you get motion sickness easily though, you may want to avoid this ride. I'd give this ride a solid 6.5 out of 10. It's pretty fun, and make sure to ride it if you go to the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. Now I'll talk about the S&S drop tower called Space Shot, and this ride is short, but it is still definitely fun. You get propelled quickly to the top twice, and you get some really awesome airtime during these moments, but the drops themselves were actually pretty mediocre, which is definitely strange for a drop tower, so I'm going to give this ride a solid 7 out of 10. The airtime pretty much carries the ride, but it is still fun to do. The last ride I'll be reviewing is Typhoon, and this ride is a Zamperla Hawk. I've ridden it twice in 2 separate years, and both ride experiences were very, very different from one another. In 2018, I rode Typhoon for the first time, and I thought this ride, it was fun, and it provided some nice hang time and some solid forces, but the cycle was like 2.5 minutes long, somewhere around there, so it wasn't really anything too insane. But during my 2019 visit, it was something completely different. Someone in my group who was going to ride on Typhoon one cycle before me asked a ride op to make the cycle longer, and upon hearing this, I was thinking there's no way that he's actually going to extend the cycle, but to my surprise, the ride cycle ended up lasting 5 minutes and 30 seconds, and I was absolutely shocked, but I figured that the ride cycle would be normal for me and a few of my friends in a group since the request was only for the one cycle. But nope, I was wrong. We ended up getting that insane 5.5 minute cycle, and this experience was absolutely crazy. The hang time was insane, the ride, it just felt super intense, and even physically draining, which could be seen as a good or bad thing depending on who you ask. But eventually, at around the 4.5 minute mark, I would say this ride felt like a little too much even for me, and I ended up getting a slight bit motion sick from the ride, though there were others who felt much worse after riding it. So because of the high highs being the incredible hang time and powerful forces that Typhoon provides, and the low lows, of course, being the repercussions of Typhoon, it was very difficult to settle on a final score, and honestly, I don't think I can give this ride a final score. Like, you just don't really know what you're gonna get with the cycles. So my recommendation is, if you don't like intense rides, don't ride this thing. And if you get motion sick easily, or motion sickness easily, definitely don't ride this. You're probably going to hate this ride. But if you love hang time and you love intensity, then this is a must ride for you if you go to the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. So, have you visited the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk? And if you have, what are some of your favorite attractions? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you all next time here on Coaster Hour.